If we could have language sovereignty in Western Australia, what kind of things, what would you see? What do you think it would look like?
As community, people would be the boss of our own destiny, you know, with language. We'd, we'd find ways to protect it, and ways to find the right programs to deliver. Like, for example, back home, Fitzroy Crossing, there's been a language program there for a long time, from back in the 80s. And I guess when Phil first started there, they approached Kariyarra Education Centre. The school did. There's that organisation, we were teaching literacy and numeracy to elders, and they want to use the Walmajarri people to start Walmajarri language classes. And so since then, but it's sort of declined now, because they only have about an hour's time, I think, in class. But language should be out on country. They should be taking the school kids out to country. And we know they can't do that these days because of insurance. Growing up in Fitzroy, we had no insurance. You know, they take us swimming down to the river and all sort of excursions and stuff. But times have changed. But yeah, we would have good language programs for our kids, and just finding ways to protect that for the future.
I guess coming from the Pilbara, for me, language sovereignty is something we've been discussing for quite some time in our community, and especially with the elders. Again, we want to have that ownership. We want to be able to develop the policies. We want to be able to develop the processes, keeping and ensuring monitoring, evaluation, because for us it's about how we can decide on how we want to see our programs being put into the community, into the education, not just education, but into the justice system, because our justice system continues to fail our community because of language barriers. We're seeing it in the mental health system. It's failing us. And so for us, we're talking about how we can have a monitoring and liaison and evaluation, data sovereignty based, but fully resourced from government, not just federal, but our state government. Western Australia is a very rich state. It funds everything but language in our community. And language is embedded in our culture, in our country, and our people. And so if we take away language, we won't have the other things. And so for us, it's about how, I guess, we take that ownership. And so this is something we're fighting with government. It's something we're also trying to support and having it as a legislation because we need it here in Western Australia.
Thank you. Language sovereignty, it's our language, it's our identity. It's our core identity of which government systems denied us throughout generations of being able to speak our language, whether in school or even the missions that we were enclosed in. Everything that the government stands for in language today, I feel like the same way that Timber Creek took the government to court because of the spirituality that was missing in native title, same thing sits with our languages. I believe that we have a compensation angle to be able to take this government to court and get compensation. Because my language, the Ngadju language, is critically endangered right now. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to get worse and it's going to be a much more difficult time to bring back in the latter stages. I believe that it's upon us to make things happen, and the way it's a political world we live in. It's a political beast that we're involved with here. Just being Aboriginal, just speaking our mother tongue, and so we got to take this not only from forums here today, but onwards and upwards into legislation. Not just money handouts, annually 40,000 a year, because that's not a sustainable process. What is much more sustainable is if we get the government to commit to a legislation that fully supports all languages right across Western Australia and even throughout Australia, so that if we're not strengthening in languages, we're revitalising them. We're reviving. That's the word, reviving them. Linguisticide. I heard that Jewish fella say he's one of the linguists that came to one of these conferences in the past. But similar to suicide, linguisticide. That's what's happening. We're being forced to give up our language because of a process and a system that's trying to stomp it out of us. But it's not going to. We've been here for thousands of years. Our languages have been around for thousands of years, and we're not going away. That's what the government's got to understand. And if they can fund Lottery West, they can fund the power across the state, they can fund water, or they can fund First Nation languages, I believe. It is a political fight, and that's where I think one of our mandates we should take from this forum onwards. As one door closes, another door must begin to open or be open for us to continue the journey, and not just standing in line for $40,000 a year every year. That's not a process I'll be happy with. And I've heard it just from our speakers already that the economics of Western Australia is far beyond imagining, because it's the engine room of Australia. I've said that earlier in a previous presentation, that WA is the engine room of Australia, and the Ngulama bloke just went out the door. His mob, they produce all that iron ore, and my mob here, we produce all the gold. Gold now is what, $6,000 an ounce, and they telling us they can't supply our need to revitalise our languages, to keep them alive, to preserve them, and so we just got to put the pressure on them. Don't, even though you fellows might be in different areas of the state, but we really, and if we're going to lead the way in the Goldfields, we really need the state to stand with us. Even the state bodies, that they need some support, but it's too much of a cost to allow our core identity slip through our fingers. Future generations, it's going to impact in a big way, and we have to. We got no choice. We have to fight for this right. We've got to fight for the legislation. We've got to fight for those royalties. 1 or 2% of our royalties that we negotiate has to come back into our languages, because the royalties are coming out of our land. And our land and the language is the core identity of our well-being, who we are, where we're going in life. And so, I'm strong politically. That's just my nature. And I know this beast that we're trying to wrestle is there. But we together, like a bundle of spears, we can't be broken. If we just one spear in Perth, one spear out here in the Goldfields, one spear in the Kimberley, we're going to be broken. But if we're together, we can't be broken.
Thanks, guys. I'm really interested to ask you, if there was language sovereignty, so there was legislation and there was language sovereignty, what would it feel like? What would it be like for the Indigenous communities of Western Australia? What difference do you think it would make?
Oh, well, I got the mic. I guess then it'll prove that we haven't ceded our sovereignty of our language. That basically proves that it's a living language, it's been a living culture, and it's always going to be there. So I guess if we can, and if we did have that, that would then show the government that they have no choice but to work with us, not against us. Because our biggest gatekeepers at the moment is our state government, not federal. Federal is just withholding funds and looking at our state on how our state is going to support or the way that our community is going to challenge the state. That's where our gatekeepers are. And anyone who lives in Western Australia, our biggest challenge is always who sits in that ministerial position, who holds our portfolios, who are the ones that are going to make those decisions. They need to be at the table, not sitting in Perth and making decisions and then telling federal government that this is where they want to put our funds and then drip feed us. That's basically what's happening in our communities. That's where all the decisions lies. And unless we stand together and we challenge them, and sometimes we might have to go above state and go to federal and stand at the doors of Canberra and say, hey, you're actually the federal. You can't keep drip feeding our communities with $40,000 that does nothing for us. You know, if you can support our mining industries and they're willing to give not 40,000, they give billions. Our port in Port Edland, state government committed and gave 2 years ago $556 million to expand the port. Every year out of Port Hedland is $120 billion exported out of our country. This is where they refuse to give us funds. They don't give nothing to our community, not even to language. They want us as individuals in our communities, as traditional owners and language groups. They tell us, how about you put it into your native title agreements? Well, why are we fighting with our native title groups to keep our languages alive? Because 90% of our time is spent dealing with mining companies. And that's the honest truth. Nothing comes back to our community, so therefore we cannot survive and keep our languages alive because we're dealing with that at the core. And so then our communities then are forced, and most mining companies or industry partners will say, we'll fund you a cultural center. And so now we're fighting with our current language centers and having another cultural center, which is great for the people, those traditional owner groups, but it's not great for our community because not everybody is a member of the native title groups. So it still forces and brings division into our community. We've got to stop that. We're not here about division, we're here about community and community. If you put the unity back into community, that's what we got to bring. And that's what we've got to challenge government.
Yeah. Language is important. Language is our identity, like this brother mentioned early on. And we need to protect it. And through the sovereignty, we have the opportunity to do that, to protect our language, and for the government to realize that our language has survived, you know, and it'll help us to continue to continue for our language to be strong moving forward into the future for our kids. We'll be able to see more funding for languages. Up in the Kimberley, we have Kimberley Language Centre, and they're always looking for funding. And I'm from Fitzroy Crossing, and we're one of the oldest Aboriginal organisations there, established in the 80s, Monroe Aboriginal Corporation, and we've been helping them with our own funding. We've been supporting, sponsoring them every year, so that important work that they do there can continue on.
Yet, sovereignty, to me, language sovereignty is, when I speak my language in the native title meetings or in our gatherings, wherever that may be, you see the strength come out of the people. It's because they recognise it, it's deep within them, it's their intellect, that's what they understand, even though it's been suppressed for generations and generations. But as first mention of our own language, we see people rise up. They get a glow about them. Their eyes wake up, and they find another breath in life. Like it gives us strength. It's like wind, It gives us that cooling fanning of the heat that comes. We have to be able to stand for our sovereign rights, because we are sovereign people. There's no government on earth can ever take that away from us. We'll always be sovereign people. And we have sovereign languages. And that's another thing. They'll never, ever take that away from us. And for as long as you come to my country here, you'll see my sovereign language spoken in the land, the name of the creek, the hills, the trees, the plants, the animals, the birds. And you know whose land it is. I can bring any linguist from all over the globe here, and they'll tell me whose land this land here belongs to. No matter, a lot of people want to go. A lot of people want to put on the native title coat, but the real truth is written in the language, in the land. And that's a research we could be doing as a people behind the scenes. That's our sovereignty stuff. So we can go back deeper, beyond government systems and native title processes, even native title decisions. And the language in the land speaks truth. And it's the truth-telling, that brings us that lift that we need beneath our wings. And that's sovereignty to me. If we want strength, we have to be able to dig into the truth of language, and in some cases it may hurt a lot of people. But the truth is, this is the language in the land. And as long as we stand on our strength, that's the very thing that will carry us through anything that this government wants to throw at us, because it's written in the land, it's written in the history books, it's written in the people's tongues, it's written in everything that we know. And we just got to rise above this oppression, this welfare system, this systemic dragnet that keeps pulling us around. And as we rise, we'll be able to get that strength, unified strength. You have a look at right across Europe now, with all these big marches. They're marching based on their sovereignty. We don't want this mob here. Immigration marches. In Melbourne, you see it all. Well, we don't have to march to prove our sovereignty. We already got that. And we've got our language. Well, all we've got to do now is go out there and use that. Don't hold back. And the next thing, state of WA, we as a people, in a sovereign language sovereignty debate, we should be getting it written in law, what do they call it? Legislation. We've got to get it written in legislation. We've been getting grants year in and year out all my life. Never done nothing for me or my people or my kids or my next generations. We have to write it in legislation and start making sure that the royalties, we're talking about the billions of dollars that are going out of these ports and out on these train lines, international, we're going to make sure 2% of that minimum comes back into our languages.
Thanks so much, guys. There's a lot there. I'm really glad that Rodney's captured that on film for us. I think one thing I'm getting from you guys is that you haven't lost your language sovereignty. It is there. It's sleeping. It's been oppressed. It is still there. The people know they've got it. But we need to make the government understand that you have it, and they need to recognise it through legislation. Is that correct? Yeah. So are there any questions from anybody on this topic before we round up today? Denise?
I think something I think about is how serious are our people? You know, how serious are our people about our language? You know what I mean? People, I find in my country, my people get lost with all this commercial stuff, with all this mining stuff, and get lost in that world. You've got new people coming through, young speakers coming through, young people coming through, and they forget about all this important things we're doing to save this language. Yeah? So when I go back to my people and have the conference and talk to them, it's about how serious they are. And yes, we do look at government. But is government to blame then? Is our people going with the government? You know, we have people who fight in government for us, whatever else. But how serious is this? Because we're coming to, I feel we're coming to another level. We're coming to another level where all the genuine old people are gone, and we're coming to this next level. How serious and how committed are people going to go to government? I'm thinking, what do you think about that? Because that's the real question for me.
Yeah, thank you for that, Denise. I guess back home in my community, one of the things that we're doing, we don't want to write our language no more. People don't let us read it. It's difficult because it's in a Walibala way of writing it. And you got to spell it and sound it in a Walibala way. And they always say it wrong. Like for instance, if you use the word wanga, you write it down, and I've heard this amongst non-Indigenous people, or the Walibalas, they say wanka. They can't say wanga. And, you know, for me, that's like, well, hang on, that's not nice. And you're pretty much, you know, demoralizing my language, my community and my people. And so we don't want to do that no more in our community because our kids don't even know how to read it. They can read Walibala way, but they can't, when they look at the language, they can't even speak it properly because they're trying to read it like how it's written in English. So for us, we want to record it. We want it put up in those posters, those TV screens where it changes and you can hear the voices of our people. We want QR codes. Everybody likes QR codes today where they can download it onto their phone and then it speaks back to them. That's what we are doing in our community. We don't want to write things down. It's great to have that if you know how to read and write. Unfortunately, not all of our people want to go back and do translation, transcribing, and trying to do all that stuff. That's one of the stuff I'm doing today with all of the old songs, because that's where some of our language words are missing that makes up our language. So I got to translate our old Gunangos, Krobris. We got to do that now. And that's telling me where some of those missing links of our languages. But for my kids and that, and for people who are visiting our community, we want that where they can hear it, not where they can read it, because they're not gonna be able to read it. So for us, it has to be now putting up on screens. We don't want to see, oh, this business is doing this business is doing that. Because when you get off that plane in my community, you're seeing all these wonderful businesses. Like, I don't care if you're a contractor. We know you're here to make money. But we want to know if you know anything about our community. What do you know about our culture? And that's what we're trying to change, is that narrative now. We as community people, as language speakers, we have to be the ones to change that. Because if we don't step up and do that, nobody else is going to do it. So we've got to go to those people, go to those airports, go to those community forums, our shire offices, and say, we got a project, we want to do this. Now let's change this. And start doing those dual language projects, you know. Let's start showcasing that stuff. Like driving around here in this community, I see that. But I want to see how do I say that? I might be saying it wrong. Or it could be another meaning in my community, and yet in this community it means this. I want to know that, so that I am respectful to the people of this country.
I guess people are serious about language. They are. Back home, Fitzroy Crossing, you know, that's all I can speak for. It's my area back there. But we must remember that language is constantly changing. Now, my Walmajarri language was the first language in the Fitzroy Valley. We got 5 to 6 languages there. First language, we're from the Great Sandy Desert. It was the first language to have a Walmajarri dictionary. First language to have online Walmajarri dictionary. So if you Google Walmajarri, you'll see it there. An audio version too. But like I said, language is continually changing. Some of our Walmajarri language now, this generation have changed them. You know, they talk shortcut, you know, in shortcut way. Like, for example, like we'd say gaga for uncle, and the generation they say gugs. It's just changing. And this generation, like you said, can read our language in the Walmajarri dictionary. And language starts at home. So we try to do our best at home, teaching our kids, or my grannies whenever I see them. Too much to count. But it starts at home. And one of my sessions tomorrow will be about creating language in generational language. So, but yeah, people are serious, and it's just continues to change. And so we just need to work hard at how to continue to support our young ones and continue to maintain our language, the original language. We need to keep that alive and embrace the new language, because it is changing. This generation back home, they're mixing English with their mother tongue. There's Bunaba, Walmiri, Wangajoga, Gunyandi, Nyiganal, and they're mixing it with Creole, and they're making up their own lingo there. But we need to embrace that. That's what language is all about.
Yeah, I believe we're at a paradigm shift in our thinking and in the way we're dealing with stuff, and it's particularly around language Right here under this roof, right now, we have a diverse group of Indigenous speakers of cultural authority. They are the the secret knowledge holders, because it's all in the language. Them clowns back there think they can do it on a mining survey. That's not cultural knowledge. We have it here. We have the expertise. Our partners right here with us under this roof. We've got Sue up the front, Jackie, Troy, others here right in our midst that can be a big part of how we go forward. They have been. They're pulling us along. We have to, as Indigenous folk, stand up and grab the opportunity and run. Let's start running. Running faster than Sue. Running faster than Jackie and Troy. Running faster than some of our other partners here in the business of language, Indigenous languages. And as we get the black and the white keys of a piano moving together, we get good harmony, good music. And that will change governments. It will change the way mining companies see us. Station owners, local governments, they will become our partners. We have to, no longer sit quiet, but use our intellect. We're smart, brilliant-minded people here, all of us, and we need to make it count. This is our moment in time, and I believe now's our time. This is the first day of our conference, and good to see a good number of people still here, where it matters the most, where the best of talk begin to come out. And I'm privileged to be up here with these two powerful women as they speak. I've witnessed what the Bunanga mob do with their language up there, because I sat with an old lady in a crossroad from the shell there, like a centre, and she was holding up the language centre. She must have been about 70-something, 80, almost 80, maybe 80, I don't know. She was really old. But she was the driver. That's what this business needs. We need drivers now. We need to turn this into a business and make things happen. And we've got the people to do that. We need to start pulling on the same rope together. And we can make changes. Let's start with WA first. Even if it's Goldfields for now, and the Pilbara, Kimberley's got a really good example of language. That fellow there, Ngadju, he's got a heritage of language that goes right back, generational, rich inheritance. And my grandfather was a key informant of recording the language out on the Nullarbor. So, and people have got stories to tell too, but we've got to start making this happen. And those people that come and go, the half-hearted ones, we need to get them on board. Because some of them are really good typists, really good keyboard, computer operators, skills that we may not have, but we can engage them. And that's how serious we've got to get with this language sovereignty. We've got to be a part of that whole makeup and run together, make it happen.
Thank you so much to Raylene, Irene and Les. Lots to think about there. Just an interesting comment, Denise. When we had the Nisquo Canadian government come and visit us last year, and I said to them, how did you start with your language? What did you do? And one of the government officials said, we had to decolonise our people's thinking that English was the prestige language. And I thought that was really interesting, that people's thinking had been colonised, that English was the right language, the superior language. And he said we had to start with changing people's thinking about that. Very interesting. Thank you everyone for staying on. Could you please join with me and thank our panel for words of wisdom.